The radio crackled with urgency across 3 carrier groups. All available aircraft, we have multiple hostile contacts converging on search and rescue operation. Sector Delta 7, immediate assistance required. In the briefing room of the USS Valiant, silence fell like a stone. 12 pilots stood frozen. The hostile count was climbing. 28 enemy fighters inbound, converging on a downed crew in hostile waters. Captain Vera Langford turned to her squadron. That's a death trap. We'd be outnumbered 4-1 minimum. Maybe worse. We can't just leave them out there, someone said. But no one moved toward their flight gear. The math was brutal. The sky over Sector Delta 7 was about to become a killing field. In the back corner of the ready room, Lieutenant Zara Kincaid stood up. Auburn hair pulled back in a regulation bun, slate gray eyes steady. She'd been leaning against the bulkhead, arms crossed, watching the hesitation ripple through the room. I'll go. Every head turned. Captain Langford's expression shifted from surprise to something like pity. Kincaid, that's suicide. You'd be launching alone into... I'll go, Zara repeated. Her voice carried no anger, no desperation, just certainty. Lieutenant, this isn't a training exercise. We're talking about numerical superiority that would overwhelm an entire squadron. You'd be flying my father's playbook. Zara was already moving toward the door. And those pilots out there don't have time for us to calculate odds. The operations officer blocked her path. Kincaid, I can't authorize. Then don't authorize it. But I'm launching in 3 minutes. Someone can court-martial me after I bring them home. She walked out. Behind her, the briefing room erupted in argument, but Zara was already gone, boots echoing down the corridor toward the flight deck. They didn't know. How could they? They saw the quiet lieutenant who kept to herself, who flew adequate training runs, who never pushed for recognition or plum assignments. They saw someone who'd washed out of Top Gun selection 2 years ago. Someone whose career had plateaued. They didn't see the nights in the simulator. The thousands of hours studying her father's combat footage. The notebooks filled with tactical analysis that covered every surface of her quarters. Colonel Jack Kincaid. 18 confirmed aerial victories before team went down over the North Atlantic when Zara was 16. The Navy had sent her his flight logs, his tactical studies, every scrap of his professional legacy. She'd memorized it all, lived inside it. Her father had specialized in impossible situations, outnumbered engagements, high-risk rescue cover, the mathematics of turning numerical disadvantage into tactical opportunity. He'd written papers that other pilots said were brilliant but impractical, too aggressive, too precise, required split-second timing that couldn't be maintained under real combat stress. Zara had made those tactics her religion. The night wind hit her face as she emerged onto the flight deck. The deck crew was already prepping aircraft for a possible launch, but nobody expected a solo bird. Chief Warrant Officer McKenna looked up from his checklist, eyes widening. Lieutenant, we're not... I need an F/A-18 full combat load, and I need it 60 seconds ago. McKenna hesitated only a moment. Something in her face, her stance, made the decision for him. Bird 7 is hot, full fuel, full weapons, but Lieutenant, you'll be going out there alone? I know. Against 28 hostiles. He held her gaze, then nodded once. Your father would have done the same damn thing. Go get them, ma'am. Zara was moving before he finished speaking. The F/A-18 Super Hornet sat waiting, crew chiefs scrambling around it, arming systems coming online. She climbed the ladder, settled into the cockpit with practiced efficiency. Harness locked. Systems check. Weapons hot. The radio buzzed in her helmet. Kincaid, this is Langford. Stand down. That's an order. Zara's hands moved across the controls. Engine start sequence initiated. Captain, I'm experiencing radio difficulties. Can barely hear you through the static. Lieutenant, I'm ordering you to... Breaking up, ma'am. Going comm silent to preserve bandwidth for rescue coordination. She switched frequencies before Langford could respond. The tower was shouting something, but the catapult officer was giving her the signal. Maybe he hadn't gotten the stand-down order. Maybe he'd chosen not to hear it. The catapult fired. Acceleration slammed her back into the seat, and then she was airborne, climbing hard into the night sky. The carrier fell away beneath her. No wingman, no backup. Just her, the aircraft, and everything her father had taught her through years of silent study. All stations, this is Phantom 7. I'm inbound to Sector Delta 7. Estimate time to contact 12 minutes. Phantom 7, this is SAR 3. The voice was strained, frightened. We have multiple hostile fighters converging. We've got 3 pilots in the water, 2 injured. We're sitting ducks out here. Shh, hold position. Help is coming. Phantom 7, how many aircraft are with you? Zara checked her weapon systems one final time. 2 AIM-120 AMRAAM, 4 AMA-9 Sidewinders, 500 rounds for the M61 cannon. Against 28 enemy fighters, the math still didn't work. Not if you fought conventional tactics. But her father hadn't taught her conventional tactics. Shh. Say R3, just one, but that's all we need. The rescue helicopter pilot's response was pure disbelief. Say again, Phantom 7. 1 aircraft. Now get those pilots aboard and be ready to move when I clear you a corridor. She pushed the throttles forward. The Super Hornet surged ahead, eating up distance. Below, the ocean was an endless expanse of black. Above, stars wheeled in their ancient patterns. And ahead, her radar was beginning to light up with hostile contacts. 28 blips. They were converging like wolves on wounded prey, confident in their numbers. They expected no opposition or maybe a token resistance they could brush aside. They weren't expecting her father's daughter. Zara's hands were steady on the controls. Her breathing was calm, measured. In her mind, she could hear her father's voice from those old training tapes. Combat isn't about matching strength for strength. It's about geometry, position, timing. Make them come to you where you want them, when you want them. The radar showed the enemy formation splitting into 3 groups. Classic pincer movement. They'd hit the rescue helicopter from multiple angles simultaneously, overwhelm any defenders. Zara smiled. It was the exact scenario her father had diagrammed in Tactical Study 47. She'd run it in the simulator 400 times. 3, what's your current heading? 095 Phantom 7. On my signal, turn to heading 270 and increase speed to maximum. Don't question it, just do it. Phantom 7, that'll take us away from the carrier. Trust me. She dropped altitude, coming in low and fast. The enemy fighters were at Angels 20, confident, lazy. They hadn't spotted her yet. She was below their radar sweep, just another piece of sea return clutter. The first group of enemy fighters was 60 seconds out from the helicopter. Zara's finger hovered over the weapons release. Not yet. Not yet. See execute turn now. The helicopter banked hard, rotor wash, churning the ocean below. The enemy fighters reacted, adjusting their vectors to compensate. The perfect response. Exactly what her father's tactics required. Now they were strung out. Extended. The 3 groups separated by distance and altitude, their mutual support broken by the need to adjust to the helicopter's unexpected maneuver. Zara pulled up hard, climbing through 5,000 feet, her aircraft screaming toward the lead enemy group. Her radar lock chimed. They'd seen her now, but too late. She fired both AMRAAM in quick succession. 2 enemy fighters exploded before they could react. The formation scattered, confused. A lone aircraft shouldn't be attacking, shouldn't be winning. She didn't give them time to reorganize. Diving through their formation, she broke hard left, forcing 3 enemy fighters to follow. They were faster than her in a straight line, but in close quarters maneuvering, her hours of practice paid dividends. The Super Hornet twisted through the sky, pulling F-forces that grayed the edges of her vision. The enemy fighters tried to match her turns, but they were thinking like hunters. She was thinking like her father, 3 moves ahead, setting up geometry that wouldn't pay off for another 10 seconds. 1 enemy fighter committed to a hard right turn, trying to cut her off. Exactly where she'd known he would be. Her Sidewinder left the rail, tracking true. The enemy aircraft became a fireball. 3 down, 25 to go. The second group was diving on her now, 8 fighters converging from above. Zara didn't climb to meet them. She dove instead toward the ocean, the fighters following eagerly. They thought she was running. At 500 feet, she pulled up so hard the airframe groaned. The enemy fighters followed, but 3 of them followed too eagerly, pulling too hard, unable to match her timing. They hit the water at 500 knots. 6 down. Phantom 7, you got bandits on your 6. The rescue helicopter pilot was watching on his tactical display, horror and awe mixing in his voice. I know. Zara's voice was calm. She put them there deliberately. She cut throttles, extended speed brakes. The Super Hornet decelerated violently. The 2 enemy fighters on her tail shot past suddenly in front of her. Both Sidewinders fired simultaneously. 8 down. 20 remaining. But her blood was up now, her father's tactics flowing through her like a conductor channeling music. She wasn't just fighting. She was dancing, each move setting up the next, turning their numerical advantage into a tactical nightmare. The remaining fighters tried to reorganize, to use their numbers. But Zara was already inside their decision loop, forcing reactions, exploiting hesitation. She dropped flares and chaff, maneuvered through their formations, made them see threats that weren't there. A cluster of 4 fighters tried to bracket her. She climbed vertical, stalled the aircraft at the top, let it fall nose down through their formation. Her cannon spoke in sharp bursts. 2 more went down, 10 down. The enemy commander was shouting orders now. She could hear the panic bleeding through on their tactical frequency. This wasn't possible. 1 aircraft couldn't do this. But their formation was shattered, their confidence gone. They were flying defensive now, trying to avoid her instead of hunting the helicopter. Shh. 3 corridors clear. RTB heading 240. You'll have safe passage. Phantom 7, we have all personnel aboard. 3 injured but stable. We're clear thanks to you. Get them home, Shuar 3. The rescue helicopter banked away, rotors beating the night air. The remaining enemy fighters tried to pursue, but Zara put herself between them and the helicopter, forcing them to deal with her first. Another sidewinder. Another burst of cannon fire. 12 down. Her weapons were running low. Gun ammunition at 40%. 1 sidewinder left. But the psychological battle was won. The enemy fighters were breaking off, individuals making the decision that survival outweighed mission completion. She pursued the stragglers, relentless. Her last sidewinder took another. Her cannon found 2 more before they could reach cloud cover and escape. 15 down. The remaining fighters scattered into the night, their formation completely destroyed. Zara didn't pursue. Her fuel was getting low and the mission was accomplished. The helicopter was safe. The downed pilots were recovered. She turned toward home, her aircraft bearing scorch marks and the signatures of violent maneuvering, but intact. Phantom 7, this is Valiant Actual. A new voice on the radio. Admiral Stars in that tone. Report status. Valiant Actual, Phantom 7, mission accomplished. Rescue helicopter is clear with all personnel recovered. Hostile forces have broken engagement and withdrawn. A long pause. Phantom 7, confirm hostile count at time of engagement. 28 enemy fighters, sir. Another pause longer. And confirm friendly aircraft count? 1, sir, just me. And confirm hostile losses. Zara ran the count in her head. 15 confirmed, sir. Possibly more damaged. The silence on the radio stretched. Then, Jesus Christ, Lieutenant, return to carrier. And Kincaid, don't ever disobey orders like that again. Yes, sir. That said, finest piece of flying I've seen in 30 years. We'll discuss it when you land. The carrier appeared on the horizon, lights blazing in the darkness. As Zara approached, she could see the flight deck crowded with personnel. Word had spread. She brought the Super Hornet in clean, catching the 3-wire, the arrested landing slamming her forward against her harness. The aircraft shuddered to a halt. She ran through the shutdown sequence, hands steady despite the adrenaline still singing in her blood. When she climbed down from the cockpit, the entire deck crew was standing at attention. Chief McKenna saluted, his weathered face split by a grin. Finest damn flying anyone's ever seen, Lieutenant. The crowd parted. Captain Langford walked through, her expression unreadable. She stopped 3 feet from Zara, studying her. You disobeyed a direct order. Yes, ma'am. You launched unauthorized into a combat zone against impossible odds. Yes, ma'am. Langford's expression cracked. A smile broke through. You magnificent, crazy, brilliant pilot, your father would be proud. She extended her hand. We all are. The flight deck erupted in cheers. Pilots, crew chiefs, maintenance personnel, all of them shouting, clapping. Zara felt something shift in her chest, a weight she hadn't known she was carrying suddenly lighter. A lieutenant commander pushed through the crowd. The rescue helicopter crew is asking to see you. The pilots you saved, they want to meet the person who pulled off the impossible. In the medical bay, 3 pilots in survival gear looked up as Zara entered. Their squadron patches marked them as Prowler Crew, electronic warfare specialists. Good pilots. Experienced. The senior officer stood, wincing from bandaged ribs. Lieutenant Kincaid? His voice was thick with emotion. We thought we were dead. We heard the radio traffic. 28 hostiles inbound, no support available. Then you showed up. Just doing my job, sir. Just doing your... He shook his head in disbelief. We watched on the SAR Birds tactical display. We saw what you did up there. That wasn't just doing your job. That was artistry. That was... I don't even have words for what that was. One of the other pilots spoke up. Who taught you to fly like that? I've been in the Navy 15 years and I've never seen tactics like that. My father, Zara said quietly. Colonel Jack Kincaid, he died 12 years ago, but he left behind everything he knew about aerial combat. I studied his work. Recognition flashed across the senior officer's face. Kincaid! Jesus, I read about him at the academy. They said his theories were too aggressive. Too dependent on perfect execution. Nobody could actually fly like that in real combat. Zara allowed herself a small smile. Somebody could. The door opened again. Admiral Hayes entered, his presence filling the room. Everyone snapped to attention. At ease. Hayes studied Zara with sharp, assessing eyes. Lieutenant Kincaid, I've been reviewing the tactical data from tonight's engagement. The recordings from your aircraft, the radar tracks, witness statements from the rescue crew. Yes, sir. What you did tonight should have been impossible. The textbooks say it can't be done. Every combat doctrine we have says one aircraft against 28 is a guaranteed loss. My father's textbook said something different, sir. Hayes nodded slowly. Colonel Jack Kincaid's tactical studies. I knew your father, Lieutenant. Flew with him twice. He was the finest combat pilot I ever knew, and I told him his theories would change aerial warfare if anyone could prove they worked in actual combat. He paused. He never got the chance, but you did. Sir, You proved him right, Lieutenant. Every tactical principle he laid out. Every unorthodox maneuver he documented. You demonstrated tonight that it all works. You turned numerical disadvantage into tactical dominance through superior positioning, timing, and pure skill. The enemy had every advantage except one. They didn't have you. Hayes gestured to the rescued pilots. These 3 men are alive because you launched when no one else would. 15 enemy fighters are gone because you flew better than anyone thought, Pate. And our understanding of what a single skilled pilot can accomplish has been fundamentally changed because you had the courage to act. He straightened. Effective immediately. You're being reassigned to the Naval Strike and Air Warfare Center. We're going to take your father's theories and your practical demonstration and turn them into a new tactical doctrine. You'll be training the next generation of fighter pilots. Sir, Thank you, sir. One more thing. Hayes pulled a small case from his pocket. These belong to your father. He opened it, revealing a pair of Navy wings burnished with age and wear. He was wearing them the day he died. The Navy recovered them and kept them in storage. I think it's time they found their way home. Zara took the wings with trembling hands. Her father's wings. The metal was warm in her palm, as if it still carried some echo of the man who'd worn them. He'd want you to have them, Hayes said quietly. And he'd want you to know that everything he taught you, everything he believed about courage and skill and doing what's right regardless of the Sadea, you proved it all tonight. You honored his legacy in the finest way possible. That night, alone in her quarters, Zara sat at her desk. Her father's wings lay before her, next to the notebooks filled with his tactical studies. She'd spent years in his shadow, learning from a ghost. Tonight, she'd finally stepped into the light, but she hadn't done it for recognition. She'd done it because 3 pilots needed help and nobody else would go. Because action mattered more than permission. Because her father had taught her that true courage wasn't about following orders. It was about doing what was right when it mattered most. Her hands were steady as she picked up her pen and opened a fresh notebook. There were refinements to document, lessons learned, tactical observations from the engagement. The work wasn't done. It was never done. Outside her window, the carrier cut through dark seas under a field of stars. In the ready rooms, pilots were talking about tonight's mission, trying to understand how one aircraft had accomplished the impossible. The story would spread, would become legend. But Zara wasn't thinking about legends. She was thinking about the next mission. The next pilot who would need someone to do the impossible. The next time someone would have to choose between permission and action, between safety and service. She would be ready. She was her father's daughter. The squadron gathered in the hangar 3 days later. The admiral stood before them, the entire air wing assembled. Zara stood at attention, her father's wings now pinned to her uniform alongside her own. What Lieutenant Kincaid accomplished didn't just save 3 lives, Admiral Hayes said to the assembled pilots. It reminded us what naval aviation is supposed to be about. Not caution, not playing it safe, but having the skill and courage to act when lives hang in the balance, regardless of the odds. He turned to face her directly. The Navy Cross is awarded for extraordinary heroism in combat, for action beyond the call of duty, performed with distinction in the face of overwhelming odds. Lieutenant Zara Kincaid, for your actions over Sector Delta 7, for engaging and defeating a numerically superior enemy force while providing cover for a rescue operation. You are hereby awarded the Navy Cross. The medal settled against her chest, its weight a reminder and a promise. The hangar erupted in applause. Her squadron, the pilots who'd hesitated while she'd launched, were cheering loudest of all. Captain Langford approached after the ceremony. I was wrong, she said simply. When you said you were going, I thought you were throwing your life away. I should have known better. I should have trusted that anyone who spent 12 years studying Jack Kincaid's tactics wasn't acting on impulse. You were being realistic, ma'am. No, I was being afraid. There's a difference. Langford smiled. Your father's theories, they require not just skill, but absolute courage, the willingness to trust. You're training even when every instinct screams to play it safe. Most pilots don't have that. You do. The rescued pilots found her afterward. The senior officer had a gift, a patch from their squadron. We all signed it, he explained. We want you to know that we'll never forget what you did, never. Our kids will grow up because of you. Our families are whole because you had the guts to launch when no one else would. Zara accepted the patch, emotion tightening her throat. You'd have done the same for me. Maybe. But we'll never know because you got there first. That evening, Zara stood on the flight deck as the sun set over the Pacific. The carrier's aircraft were arranged in neat rows, their weapons and fuel ready for whatever tomorrow would bring. She thought about the path that had led her here. The grief of losing her father, the long years of solitary study, the quiet determination to master what he'd taught. She'd been dismissed as adequate. Overlooked. The pilot who'd failed Top Gun selection and never amounted to much. They'd seen her keep to herself and assumed she lacked confidence. They'd watched her fly competent training missions and never imagined she was capable of more. They'd been wrong. Not because she'd proven them wrong deliberately, but because when the moment came, she'd acted. She'd done what needed doing, carried the weight of her father's legacy into the sky, and trusted that his wisdom would see her through. 15 enemy fighters defeated. 3 lives saved. A new understanding of what one skilled, determined pilot could accomplish against impossible odds. Her father would have been proud. She was certain of that now. The wind shifted, carrying the salt smell of the ocean and the JP-5 scent of jet fuel. Tomorrow she'd start her new assignment, teaching others what her father had taught her. The tactical principles that turned disadvantage into opportunity. The courage to act when others hesitated. But tonight, standing on the flight deck with her father's wings pinned over her heart and the Navy Cross heavy on her chest, Zara Kincaid allowed herself a moment of peace. She'd proven that his theories worked. She'd honored his memory. She'd saved lives. She'd done what pilots were supposed to do. The stars were coming out overhead, the same stars that had witnessed her father's last flight all those years ago. The same stars that would watch over countless flights to come. Zara touched her father's wings one last time, then turned and walked back inside. There was work to do. There always was. But for the first time in 12 years, she wasn't walking alone anymore. She carried her father's legacy forward, not as a burden, but as a gift. And somewhere in the great beyond, she knew he was flying alongside her. Always had been. If you have enjoyed the story, tell YouTube to send you more stories like this by subscribing to this channel, liking the video, and leaving a comment.